Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Well, hello there and welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast, where we're back to review the weekend's action in the Allianz football and hurling leagues, and we'll get to that in just a second. But over the weekend, we had the very sad news of the passing of Michael Lyster, an icon in the RTÉ Sport Department and presenter of the Sunday game for over 30 years. Enda McGinley is with us and Damian Lawlor is here in studio as well. Damian, massively sad news to hear the passing of Michael Lyster, someone that I think we all looked up to, it's fair to say.
Absolutely. Michael Lyster was just the ultimate professional, and I remember I came across him first of all in an all-star selection committee. I was probably lucky enough to be on a committee with Michael and the likes of Vinnie Hogan and Martin Breheny, three best friends. I was with them maybe for 20 years. We travel all around the world together, and I remember just being in awe, being in the room that Michael Lyster was there as well. But the best thing then is when you actually get to talk to him and you got to know him over the years. He was exactly as he appeared. There was no airs and graces. Just an absolute gentleman. Would talk to you if you were a Cub junior reporter the very same as he'd talk to you if you were a 7-time All-Star. You know, it made no difference to him. He was an easy guy to get on with, always sociable, always great crack, always had the friendly word for you. He had lots of advice for me along the way too, Carl. I always looked to Michael for advice, especially when I switched over to broadcast, because like him, print journalism was where he started out as well. And then I suppose, just as a broadcaster, you'd be sitting back in awe of how he steered the ship when pandemonium was breaking out all around him. And let's be honest about it, he had some unbelievably opinionated panels and panelists, and he'd be sitting back and there wouldn't be a funk taken out of the man. And he had a lovely, cultured, polished way of getting about his business, and he didn't intrude, but he didn't let it get away from him ever. And we'll miss him. And the last time I saw him was for Vinnie Hogan's retirement due, and he was great crack again. So sympathies to Dan and his whole family. But I will say, a legend for the likes of us growing up, and one of the best we've ever produced, and probably the pulse of the GAA in many ways too. Yeah,
the face of the Sunday game for so long. Enda, your memories?
Yeah, I suppose I was listening to the guys last night, and it was a fairly talented couch, so it was a lot of the all-star trips and a lot of that there. And look, I suppose I was younger, and Michael was simply from a much more basic point of view. I didn't get to know him on any of those sort of trips, but he was the man in our living room on so many days when there was only one TV in the house and there was only one thing being watched, and it was Michael Lyster. Sort of took us through the biggest games of the summer and the evening shows and the all-star shows and all of those things. I suppose now, from seeing behind the curtain on the other side, he always just came across as such a natural in terms of the on-screen persona, and certainly from all the stories that you've been reading and hearing, he was like that off-screen. But just in terms of his role in my childhood and many other people in the country, he was the voice in our living rooms for so long during an era where the GAA really sort of came to life and went to a whole new level. So yeah, he'll be badly missed.
Yeah, it feels like someone, even if you didn't know him or you did know him, that you did know because he was there on the big days you could think of from your childhood. And when Michael Lyster was introducing your county on the television, you knew things were going pretty well as well.
Yeah, it meant that you were in the headlights again. But he was a big music fan as well. We had great chats about music over the years. He was obviously a rally driver. Vincent was his co-navigator. I often wondered how that partnership worked at high speed. Just know, I think, as I say, like, lucky enough to have gone around the time of the All-Stars, and we got to Boston, Singapore, Hong Kong, Argentina, Dubai. All those trips, and he was an ever. I wasn't on all of them, but Mick was. He was an ever present and a welcoming face. The best thing I can say about him is there's a few people in life that when you were nobody on the scene or nobody knew you or you didn't even know yourself, Mike Lyster had time for you. And I don't think you can have a better platitude to anybody than that. He'd look after you, he'd talk to you, and he was the very same up to a few months ago as he was back 20, 25 years ago when I first got to know him.
Yeah, well, our sympathies, as you say, Damien, to his wife Anne and his family and very wide circle of friends on the sad passing this weekend of Michael Lyster. So let's get to the weekend's football action then, lads. Lots happening across all 4 divisions as things were settled. I think we might start maybe with divisions 3 and 4 because, my God, I mean, the drama there, 2 matches in particular, Damien. Wexford with that late goal against Westmeath, and then Longford. Probably the performance of the weekend, 11 points down to Wicklow, and they came back to win it and get promoted.
Yeah, and there's one man I'm going to shout out here, Paddy Fox, the Longford captain. Talk about a stalwart and talk about service to your county. And I'm just delighted that Paddy Fox gets a chance to go back to Croke Park and bring the people of Longford with them. At various stages during Division 4, it was a case of who wants this mostly. I wondered even London fancied their chances of getting a crack at it. And the job that Michael Maher has done there, by the way, over the last 4 or 5 years, absolutely incredible. Carlow were in the driving seat. Joey Murphy was at the wheel. They were absolutely flying it. Then they came off the tracks a little bit in terms of losing 2 games. Their response back then was absolutely, absolutely brilliant, because I thought Carlow were out of it nearly. I thought Wicklow must be absolutely devastated this morning, because it's the same story again now. And I think Oisin going back there looking for Tailteann Cup success maybe, and looking for a bit of league promotion as well. And the first target this year hasn't arrived. But go back to what you were saying. Longford, Carlow, unbelievable. Delighted for Joe Murphy, delighted for Longford. You go up a level then, the work that John Hegarty has done with Wexford over the last few years. And again, they would have doubted themselves last year. They slumped out of the championship in Tailteann. They wouldn't have been happy about that. But Ryder Rovers finished a 2-pointer and a goal from Sean Ryan. The final whistle sounds, they get promoted and back up now another league tier. And, oftentimes it's where, and Enda will know this, it's where all the main stories are really.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for Wexford football in general. And to win the game in that way, I know everybody wants to win a game with a perfect performance and maybe cushy enough down the stretch 5 or 6 points. But when you win with that late goal from Sean Ryan, literally the last kick, that's incredible.
Oh, it was unbelievable. When I was sort of, there was so much to keep an eye on yesterday, and again it was touched on and has been touched on numerous times in terms of trying to create a wee bit more room for all of these sort of stories to be looked at and given the respect that you'd love to give them. So it was one eye only on it, and only when the story, as you were keeping a track on it during the match, it seemed to be going the way we would have expected from the outset, a down promotion accompanied by Westmeath, and then just the last gasp heroics. And whenever you got to see the highlights last night again, it certainly lived up to that building. But both 3 and 4 and right across all divisions, the word of the spring is momentum. And it's encapsulated in the Division 4 league campaigns. It was Carlow had huge momentum, then almost lost it. Same way as what can happen in a match. And can you apply the brakes when you start to slip, be it at a season level when it's a run of games, or be it within the 70 minutes? And Carlow, coming off the back of 2 losses, having been in pole position, ready to get across the line, and suddenly tripping up, they were emphatic yesterday in terms of the performance. Wicklow, on the other hand, they were right there. And it's exceptionally difficult when you're 61, 62 minutes into a game and you're 8 points up. Wee things start to happen, and you just start to think that you're done and dusted, and suddenly you lose momentum right at the absolute death, and it's gone from you. And Westmeath, similar for Westmeath, you feel really badly for Wicklow, you feel really badly for Westmeath, because probably both teams, if sport was a fair thing, if sport was done on metrics, if sport was done purely on merit, well then we don't get this drama. Westmeath and Down get promoted, and probably Wicklow and Carlow get promoted. But we love sport because of the craziness. We got it all yesterday. And Wexford, that test of your character, do you stay in the fight? Do you truly believe right down the stretch? They absolutely done that. Obviously Dara Brooks, the whole impact of the 2-pointers, that gives teams more lifelines to come back. And I think teams, the psychological aspect of the old thing where you were 2 or 3 points up, and can you hold out, the range of score that you now psychologically are in that dangerous space where you can be caught is so much bigger, and the impact of momentum in games and in seasons. But yeah, look, two brilliant stories and two really disappointing stories, all encapsulated in those games.
And that's Division 4 and Division 3 in a nutshell. And to go back to the Carlow thing, like Leitrim got a couple of early scores against them, and you wonder then, again, like Enda said, do they really believe? You know, because a lot of these counties can be accused of not, you know, doing much over the last few seasons. It might be a yo-yo team then up and down. But probably the greatest tribute I can give counties operating at 4 and 3 is, you know, I've met a couple of inter-county coaches at that level over recent weeks and months, and the turnover of players that they've had to contend with is absolutely, it's the biggest challenge. It's a huge mountain for any manager at that time, at that kind of stage of the championship or the league. 11, 12 players could be gone off travelling. You could have to, you know, could have worked maybe 2 years with these players, building them up for S&C, and then they're on a break, they're on a travelling trip, they're on a gap year. You know, there's no guarantee. Even speaking to a couple of managers whose counties have been promoted, gone from 4 up to 3, 7 or 8 players gone again the next year. So to me, that's the greatest tribute to any of the teams down at that level, that they're able to rebuild on the hoof and be contenders. And, you know, bar 1 or 2 teams, nearly every county at 4 and 3 was ultra competitive.
Yeah, great finish yesterday. So well done to Longford and Wexford on their big results. Wexford in the same division as Dublin next year, both in Division 2. Yeah,
we're going back now to the Matty Ford era where that was commonplace the whole time. But again, you know, it just shows you like Dublin struggled to get any momentum, you know, from an early stage this year. Their recent performances maybe to be slightly happier with. But again, no surprise that they fall down. They are a team in transition, an awful lot of change there. They've lost a huge amount of All-Ireland winners. And then really with that Wexford piece, they have held most of their players together. They've brought in amazing new talent, but the manager really takes all the plaudits there. And again, I met him in Croke Park after a Tailteann Cup game last year, and he was so disappointed. And I just said to him, you're going in the right direction. Like, you know, you are going in the right direction. And they all came back. They all believed again, and they are where they rightly belong now.
Yeah, up to Division 2. Dublin less pleased ended to be in Division 2 next year. What did you make of that game yesterday? Just one thing that I was thinking since, did that half-time coming together going down the tunnel, did that adversely affect Dublin in the second half? Because they looked quite comfortable heading in at half-time.
Yeah, they looked quite comfortable, but even probably up until the sending off, I would still say they were in pole position to go on ahead and take that game. For me, I agree with Damo there in that momentum. Dublin have had an exceptionally difficult campaign particularly in the early half of it, the first half of it. I think they'll be disappointed with getting relegated. It certainly wouldn't have been part of the plan. They would have ideally avoided it and could have avoided it in the end up. But the most critical thing for a manager, yes, that's your ideal scenario. The absolute crux of what you want as a manager is: are you seeing a degree of progress? Are you seeing a degree of effort and commitment from your players that makes you think, right, there's something coming here. I've got a wee bit of spirit in the dressing room. Because if there's no spirit in the dressing room, if there's no hunger or desire, it is a horrific place to be. And Dublin, for me, in their last couple of games, I've been hugely impressed with their tackling, their intensity, the uglier side of the game that maybe we could say, but one that shows when if you haven't got it, you've got nothing. When you've got that, it will show Ger Brennan he's got something there to really build on. And so from a project of work over the past 3 months, given where they have been at times during that, I think he will be feeling, when all's in balance, I think he'll feel it's got a real good foundation now to go and build on. They're not going to be talked about for a Leinster title for the first time in a long, long time. There's Louth and Meath, there's big stories elsewhere outside Dublin, and I think that group of Dublin players to me look like a group that might just enjoy that quite all right.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'd agree, and they still have lots of potency up front. A lot of counties would really relish the attacking talent that they have, and when you have that, you always have a chance. And I suppose it's further back to field. You're trying to fill in the gaps there. But look, Ger's been honest from day one. He's seen it as a rebuilding job and a project, and I think he lives and breathes it. and he knows where he's at now, but they're not in a bad place. They have lots of positives there to work on too.
Yeah, you look at Derry and Tyrone, though, that have gone down to Division 2. They haven't managed to get out. So you just wonder. But Dublin did win the All-Ireland from Division 2 a couple of years ago.
And Armagh did as well. And it's been done before,
Yeah, so let's see how that pans out for them. Galway getting the job done. Important for them, you feel, to stay up, because it's been a topsy-turvy league for them as well. More injuries yesterday, though. Kelly and Tierney, I wonder what it is with injuries with Galway.
I don't know, because I remember talking to John Concannon last year at one stage, and they had 21 players out injured, and this year hasn't alleviated all that much. To an extent now where there's hardly even much chatter about Shane Walsh and Damien Comer, but a lot of injuries. But at the same token, Rob Finnerty shot the lights out of the weekend. I do believe that they've brought in 4 or 5 youngsters. Most of them are forwards as well, and they're cracking talents from what I can see. So they'll bring a huge energy and impetus to that. I don't think Galway are in a bad place at all. I think Connacht, looking down the line, is going to be an unmerciful competitive championship. But no, I like what I see from Galway. I really do.
What about you, Enda, Galway?
Yeah, I think have they moved much in my rating from last year? I don't think so. I rate them as a really high level squad. To be honest, they're maybe in a better position. There was so much reliance on Damien Comer and Shane Walsh. Yeah. And unfortunately for both players, there was an unreliability for various reasons across both of them and their performances. So I think moving away from that particular axis won't do them any harm longer term. And if they can get either or both back, then that's a real bonus, as long as it doesn't disrupt what they have got. In the likes of John Maher, in the likes of that spirit and power that they're playing with, and Paul Conroy coming back, Rob Finnerty is just an absolute joy to behold. Like, again, we can go back to the new rules, but there's so much to enjoy about watching football at the minute, and Rob Finnerty he's such a different player than the likes of a Clifford and maybe the likes of the power runners that we get to see with Armagh. His skill and his finesse is just fantastic. So he's in rich form. The young fellas coming in there playing with confidence. And defensively they are good. Injury wise, those two, like it was reported, Sean Kelly was off, I think as a precaution was the term used, and Tom Tierney off with a dead leg. Again, that's you always, at this stage in the mouth of the championship, any proclamations regarding injury and diagnosis can be taken with a bucket of salt, because if it is a notable injury, they are not going to say, because they don't want opposition and not aware and planning. So I would really hope, for Galway's perspective, those are two vital players that they cannot be doing without. If they get them back, like Sean Kelly was a man absolutely flying during the National League, so and Tierney as well. So they need those two players back, absolutely. If they have them back and playing well, they're definitely going to be in that top bracket of teams.
Yeah, going for 5 in a row of Connacht titles. They're on the opposite side to Mayo and Roscommon as well in Connacht, and all 3 Connacht teams had a pretty similar record in Division 1. They're all behind each other in the table, even if they weren't in the final, so they'll all be happy enough. Mayo absolutely hammered Roscommon yesterday. A funny enough sort of game, actually, because Roscommon made, I think it was 9 changes, Mayo made 8.
Again, the work that Mark Dowd has done with Roscommon is really impressive in a short space of time. We mentioned before, Enda Smith is their talisman. He has now rediscovered his all-star form, but I think the team looks really solid. They look really dynamic, and they look really high, play with a high tempo. They've got one of their own in charge of them, and they made a host of changes, and he learned a bit more about that yesterday as well. As regards Mayo, I think they had 11 or 12 different scorers yesterday, and it was evenly balanced out. I've been talking about Keane McHale all league here, and I know Kobe McDonald gets all the headlines, and he'll go off playing under 20s now, and he has done. But Keane McHale to me is just a culture player. Aidan O'Shea got 1-3, 1-4 at the weekend. Again, I always would imagine with the new rules that he'd be an obvious target man at 14, but unfortunately the way Aidan plays, he tends to come out looking for the ball and be that link man still. I actually do feel that with the new rules, he's an obvious target man to play off. I really do. But maybe he's so fundamental to their game plan that they need him out the field as well. And then, Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, to me, I don't know where the Connacht title is going to go this year. And I have to say, the provincial championships have been creaking for a long number of time, but not this year. I think Ulster, I couldn't call that. I couldn't call Leinster, and I couldn't call Connacht. And I do expect Cork to give Kerry a right rattle in Munster as well. So overall, you have to look at the new rules, and you have to look at the provincial championships. It's an impressive place to be too.
Yeah, you mentioned the Munster Championship in Kerry there. Jack O'Connor must be the happiest man I've ever seen after a draw yesterday. He said it was a great test, great crowd, everything was perfect for him, and Armagh got to stay up as well after that draw at the Athletic Grounds. Again, Kerry, the start that they made ended to that game, I think they were 10-0 up. They started with real purpose. I mean, if Kerry play like that, is anyone going to be able to get close to them?
Oh, Cathal, I was sitting watching it, and it was just football of the highest order. One of my friends texted me. He says, "Gary, you're just playing a different game than everybody else." It was sensational on both sides of it. Their forward play was so good, so slick, so fast through the hands, so structured. They had a really clear blueprint that they were going to repeatedly, and even though Armagh would have known it, they couldn't do much about it whenever they were that wee bit off. In midfield, their pair, Joe O'Connor, just absolutely bossed and shown. Then defence, they were absolutely like wasps around Armagh the few times Armagh got up the pitch. And when Kerry, the way I would probably put it is that Kerry, I think, have a gear that nobody else in the country has in terms of their game at their very best is at a level above anybody else. Do they get to go there, as Armagh showed in that game? Whenever you start stemming them of possession, then you can hurt them. They're still a team. They still can be got at, but my gosh, you have to be playing serious ball to get at them. So Kerry are in rude health. Jack O'Connor will do the Kerry thing. They will try to play it down, but like they are playing at that level without. This time last year, the whole narrative was, who's really more important for Kerry, Paddy or David Clifford? Because really, without Paddy Clifford, Kerry just look struggling. They're playing at this level without their probably best all-round player in around the middle of the pitch. So yes, look, Kerry are in rude health, but Armagh will be delighted with what they done yesterday. The slow start will concern them. That's a couple of times. They said against Roscommon that they were on the bus for the first 25 minutes again yesterday, and it just shows the modern game. If you're a wee bit off it, you are miles off it. If you're a wee bit off it, you can't get possession in the middle. You can't stop those slick attacks, and then it's back on your goalkeeper's tee, and again you're just facing that problem, and you're massively under the cosh. But they weathered it. Armagh weathered it and got back in it for it was a cracking game in the Athletic Grounds, a ground that just repeatedly produces great games at the minute.
If Armagh could ever string together a 70-minute consistent performance, I think God help everybody else as well, because you know what they're actually capable of in a game is incredible. But as Enda alluded to, they either start slowly or they have a patch where they fade in the middle of the game. They do, of course, nearly always come back. But I think Kieran must be kind of puzzled at that even now. And as regards Kerry, I remember after the All-Ireland final last year, Jack came into the media room and he was talking to the press about, his last year and all that. And in my own mind, I was listening to that saying he's got at least another 3 years here ahead of him. The road ahead looks wide open. The new rules are completely tailored to their system. The likes of Evans, Trent have come on and really made an impact in their attack this year. As Enda mentioned there too, Paddy's not even playing. Obiaglik, all these guys, are only trickling back in there recently.
Gavin Weiss,
yeah. So like at the end of the day, they do what they have to do. They adapt to anything. Fist of points yesterday, getting over the line. They can do anything that
but physically, they're well able physically as well. And isn't it a good thing for them, lads, that Paddy Clifford probably hasn't been playing, because teams can't try anybody on him in terms of a man marker, which was all the talk after the All-Ireland last year ended about Donegal. I'd say if Paddy Clifford was fit for the league final, Jack O'Connor would be telling him, get your golf clubs, go play a game of golf today in the league final. They don't want to get Donegal, give them a chance to see maybe Finbar Roarty on him or something like that.
Yeah, but it gets this, you get to that critical stage really, really quickly with Kerry at the minute, where sort of the majority of teams appear to be following a similar template, where you will have 1, 2, maximum maybe 3 of real tight man-to-man duels, men tagged, so to speak, who do not get room at any stage. And everybody else, then, you've got a loose sort of man that you're responsible for, and not so much all the time, but when an attacking play gets developed, if you're in a region of the pitch and whoever is in your region of the pitch from an opponent point of view, that is loosely your man and you're responsible for him. But you'll tuck well in off him. If he's on the far wing from play, you'll tuck in well. You try to keep it relatively compact defensive shape and not be pulled out of place and not follow runners unnecessarily or to strange places, bar the 2 or 3 men that'll tag people really closely. But with Kerry, where do you start having to tag? Armagh had to go man-to-man on Joe O'Connor yesterday to try and curtail him. Yeah. Classically, the likes of Gavin White, Paddy Clifford, obviously David Clifford, Gainey inside. They have so many players that you have Seanie O'Shea. They have so many players that can completely dictate a game that if you try to man-mark each of them that need man-marked, then you're in a complete man-marking game, which from the outside, I know Mayo to an extent are still following it. I think it can be pulled apart by top teams and will fall asunder. So Kerry have a lot of fires for teams to try to put out at the minute. Your chief way of getting them, as I said earlier with Armagh yesterday, they managed to get a foothold at midfield. They started to get on the ball, and with your own ball in hand, well, then you're in a wee bit more control. You can try and put them on the back foot. So, but yeah, the question for who to man mark against Kerry whenever they've got through a league campaign the way they have, and without some of those key players that are going to be coming back in come championship time, and then trying to do that type of thing in Croke Park, yeah, not a headache. But in terms of Jack O'Connor, why else would you not want to manage that array of players at the minute? Like, it just must be some environment in there at the minute.
And it just shows you the environment in that you mentioned, Enda, about Joe O'Connor being man-marked. It's not that long ago where Joe was captain of the squad and brought on for the latter few minutes of an All-Ireland final, had to overcome a big injury, and this man is now being man-marked. And on the basis of his performances last year, but he has started this year like a man who's never won a medal in his life. He's ravenous for it. He's making up for lost time, I think. It has all the appearances of. So there's absolutely no signs of them letting up completely. And you've got Tadhg Morley there at 6 during the league, and he's sitting back and he's organising everything all around him. He's communicating. They're not being exposed anywhere. And then come championship time, there's probably about 3 or 4 more players to come back into that first team. So he's in a beautiful position.
Donegal in the final then for Kerry. Donegal beat Monaghan by 320 to 316 at Clonus yesterday. What sort of Donegal end are we going to see in that league final this weekend, do you think? Do they try and right the wrongs of last year in Croke Park against Kerry, or do they hold something back?
No, I think the mentality of righting the wrongs against last year, I don't think that'll be in their head, because they know any win is a very hollow win, and it means jack all until they actually do it in Croke Park in the championship. So there will be no wrongs righted from a Donegal point of view. There will be things to learn, things to test, a chance to play in Croke Park, a chance to play their game in Croke Park. They are probably the shortest passing team of the top teams. They're playing a slightly different style than others. So how that holds up in Croke Park, in terms of being able to break down a team like Kerry, for me, the biggest change in their game from this time last year, I would say, is their tackling intensity in terms of their own defensive play. So how Donegal's ability and philosophy in terms of keeping ball, short passes, movement on the loop, changing the angle constantly through short passes and good runs, which can really move teams about. How that works in Croke Park, it demands a heck of a lot of the players. And then obviously the defensive side of the game now, again, as we're saying, without those key players, I think Donegal early on in the league were more man-to-man. I think, to be honest, of late they have started to try and create cover the majority of times. I was speaking to one Donegal fella last week, and fella knows his football very, very well, and he was querying just how good Donegal are man-to-man. He would query it. That was after the Roscommon game, when Roscommon, playing against the wind, repeatedly got in for scores and managed to eke out their win. So there is questions. There's more questions about Donegal at this stage, but to be honest, as a manager, you're more than happy with that, because you need questions to come up with solutions and to come up with answers. You need to be tested. Kerry are absolutely flying at the minute. They need tested too, to an extent. They need faults thrown out, but certainly you would expect, in terms of form, that Kerry are playing the better football at the minute. But it will be fascinating, more fascinating. I think we know how Kerry will play. I think that's more defined at the minute. I think Donegal are still in a process of transition, particularly on the defensive side of their game. And next, the league final will represent the best test of that. to date in the environment that it has to hold up best, albeit against an opposition without a couple of key players.
Okay, well, let's see that league final on Sunday at Croke Park, and the other one will be on Sunday, Meath and Cork. They're both in the Division 2 final. Damian, Cork are back after 10 years away from the top tier.
And I'm happy for John Cleary because he's had to put up with a fair bit of criticism. I'm happy for the four stalwarts as well, your Hurleys, your Maguires, your Deans, and they were relegated when they arrived on the scene 10 years ago, and they've stuck around. And Cork football is not an easy sell. It is to people who believe in it, but even in their own county, you know, it takes a few wins to get the crowd back on side. But I think they'll come up. I do think Meath will be favourites for this one. I think from what I've seen this year, Meath are absolutely a Division 1 team. From midfield onwards, you know, they're high tempo, they're high powered. With Jack's performances this year, he'd be on my team of the league. And then up front, Kinsella, Jordan Morris, they're unbelievable to watch. They're great to watch, but it is early in the year. But I do think they might have enough for Cork this weekend coming. But certainly, anyway, there's a bit of a traditional feel to that now.
Yeah, two big counties back into Division 1. Cork got it done against Tyrone yesterday, and Tyrone not brilliant for long stages of that match, but Cork, it was still difficult for them coming down the stretch, given what was at stake for them. But they got there.
They got there in the end, and probably from a Tyrone point of view, the amount missed in the first half will stick in the craw a wee bit. But to be honest, even with that, Cork looked to be playing the higher quality stuff, and I think deservedly go up. I think bar the Derry game, I think they've had a really, really strong league campaign. Obviously, the Meath one was massive, and again the cheers and the chants at the end of that game, it's brilliant to see. I think lots of us at a similar age would see Cork and would want Cork to be at that top table, the same way as you want Meath up at that top table in football. Just it feels better when there's a greater spread of big counties able to carry that fight at the top level. It makes it much more interesting to everybody. So it's great for Cork to be back up. They have great attacking power. They've got the size that they've always had in the middle, and they're playing. They're not completely consistent. It is Cork after all, but they are more consistent than they have been in many, many years. And Damo outlined a list of people he's happy for. I'm just happy for Rory O'Neill. Like, we've worked with him on the podcast, and
We had to-
I was just thinking of him yesterday. The fist bumps would have to be there now whenever they got over the line. But no, brilliant for them. Meath have been sensational. Really, a really, really strong team playing with Abanton up front, as we've commented on often. I think the timing of their renovation of their county ground has worked an absolute treat. I think getting that team regularly into Croke Park brings a significant added benefit, and will stand them down the line. Might even stand them in this game against Cork. But no, Meath are in a great place again. It's, even as a Tyrone man, we've had our rivalries with Meath over the time, but as a GA man, I think it's good to see them back up at the top table.
I think that's a great point to end it about Croke Park and Meath. They look so suited to Croke Park with that forward play that they have. Yeah,
and I think it allows them to see, can they replicate that intensity that they're showing in the regional grounds in the national stadium, and they have been able to do that, because I've been taken aback by their work rate. I really have. Like last year, they were lovely to watch. And they were a powerful side, but this year their application, their intensity, their work rate and their tackling through the roof. They're a high octane team now, and they're really, really dangerous. And the great thing is, you know, they go for it. They shoot. Robbie Brennan lets them off, and there's that trust there that there's a bit of chaos up front, but they have a lovely structure at the back. You know, and they are organised and compact, and just great to watch. Great to see a county rejuvenated again.
Yeah. On the other side then, Kildare County, you know plenty about, Damian, relegated at the other end. We spoke last week about how big a blow it would be for them to go back down again. They do have the All-Ireland series this year, but Division 3 next year again for them. Yeah, and like, you know, Jack Robinson was coming on, getting a few points, was a positive, and they battled hard and they kept going, but overall they won't be happy. I think, you know, certainly when they played against Meath, I saw the gap that was there. It was an S&C gap or a conditioning gap or intensity gap, but Meath are further ahead by about 2 years in that journey. I still believe Brian Flanagan is the right man for that job. A great young manager with under 20 success.
There's been a couple of under-20 All-Ireland titles coming through that county. They need a bit of time to blend in, but they'll be disappointed to have gone back down again. It's you don't want to become that team, compared to hurling, where you're a Joe McDonough, Lee McCarthy, that step up, step down. But quite frankly, they need more up front and they need more physicality, I think, to get to the levels that they want to get to. But I would trust the manager. He knows what he's doing.
And good young players coming through as well. I was very impressed with Louth's lads in that game, actually. It was a really good match, lots of scores. Louth's quietly going along okay and will be in the mix very strongly to retain their Leinster title, Enda, you would imagine.
Yeah, exceptionally solid. They've got so much right. Again, they've got that confident attacking play that you now need in the modern game. They've got size, really, really effective size in around the middle. They've got runners and they've got a real spirit. They defend like underdogs, which is what you don't want them to lose that mindset. They probably lost a wee bit of that edge following their Leinster title last year in the remainder of the All-Ireland Championship, and whenever you lose that energy and lose that hunger and bite, the game becomes exceptionally difficult. They have rediscovered that during this. You can almost sense a greater maturity about them, having won what they won last year. Yeah, in a really good place. And as Damon was saying earlier, that Leinster Championship, I think it has the makings of being a brilliant contest, because I've got a feeling Dublin have a real hunger about them. You've got Meath obviously wanting to get over there. Louth, they'll want to prove it wasn't a fluke, and Westmeath are a good quality, a really good quality side. Kildare's right in the mix too. So no, and Wexford up to Division 2. Like I can't wait.
Never thought I'd hear you. Never thought I'd hear you describe it like that, Enda. Even go back 10 years.
But absolutely. And again, it's not as if I think we're characterised as just loving Ulster up here now. We think Ulster football is better. You want the provincial championships to be strong. Ulster sort of would know we love our provincial championship, absolutely, but we know that you can't be the only decent competition and that the other three can be struggling. Now, Connacht has been good for a period of time, but Leinster now coming strong as well will be really good. Like, I remember this time last year, you were sitting at the end of the National League, and again, the final day was immense, and all the stories and the late drama of it. And then you were thinking, we're now just into the provincials, and it's a bit of a run in the middle for a while. I don't have that sense this year at all. I can't wait for the provincials to happen. As you say, there's so many.
All we need is a soccer team to win now. We're back to the 90s again. That's fantastic stuff.
Well, who knows? Just to finish, end a word on Tyrone. You mentioned the Ulster Championship there. You've got Armagh on the horizon. What's the mood like now after a mediocre enough league campaign? Yeah,
mediocre is bang on. I think the team has shown in tiny wee glimpses that it still is a good football team, but in the vast majority of other instances, it has been a team that it's hard to know exactly where they're going at the minute. They are going into the athletic grounds in a few weeks' time, and that match, I imagine, will take on a life of its own. From a Tyrone point of view, their backs are on the wall. There is no doubt about it that on current form and the way the two teams are playing, it is possible for Armagh to absolutely annihilate Tyrone.
That's a big call. That's a big call.
Tyrone usually have something significant about themselves whenever the backs are against the wall, whenever they're written off, and whenever they're underdogs. If that group of Tyrone players gets that, and I have no doubt they can, well, then it'll be game on. That game will take on a life of its own. But on current form, that Tyrone setup, and I know from chatting to various ones, there's been a lot of good work done. They feel that the performances aren't reflective of what's happening in terms of behind the scenes. That's all well and good, but my gosh, they're in for some test in the athletic grounds where they have to stand up. In a wee way, I'm looking forward to it. We're definitely in the long grass, very, very long grass, but they have to be ready to stand up and be counted big style then. And if they do, league games are very, very quickly forgotten. So there's a potential there if they really want to go about their business, and I would imagine they will hear plenty over the next few weeks that should light a few fires inside them, and with that lit, who knows?
Yep, who knows? That's the beauty of football. Enda, thanks a million for joining us. We'll be back in just a second to chat hurling with Shane McGrath.
It's over.
Now, time to talk hurling, and glad to say we're joined by Shane McGrath on the line. Shane, hope you're well. Thanks for jumping on. We were paying tribute earlier on with Enda to Michael Lyster. I'm sure you have some memories of Michael as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No more so than the lads were saying last night. I think people think Michael Lyster did not but go on all-star trips, but that would be a lot of the inter-county lads' dealings with him, Cathal, for the reason being that the day of the match is the guy you'd meet there as demo would know well. You'd probably meet Ger Canning maybe getting off the bus at the bigger games, but then Michael obviously would be in studio, but we would meet him maybe afterwards at banquets or, as I said, on those trips. But look, he's a gas man, I suppose, is what a lot of people would say about him. He loved the crack, but he was good at giving the slagging, taking the slagging. As I said, we were lucky enough to meet him a few times, and look, I think Damian, I'm sure you'll agree, and Cathal, you're entering that world of interviewing now. It's a tough job, but what Michael Lyster was unreal at was making those tough things look so easy, and he dealt with some characters down through the years. But I suppose what I loved about him and what we all loved about him in our sitting rooms was he'd let it flow. But maybe the teacher, he knew when to step in when it was needed if it was getting out of hand. But be able to read that room, I suppose that's a skill or a presenting skill, lads. You can't teach anyone. So it's very the best make all these things look easy. He was the best, and people are trying to be like him. And but look, he'll be sadly missed, and obviously our deepest sympathies to all his family. But I think someone said to me before, they made a good one. They said you die twice. Like, the first time you die is physically, and the second time you die is the last time someone mentions your name. So for those reasons, I don't think Michael Lyster will ever really be dead in GA terms anyway. Let's
very nicely put, Shane. Yeah, very, very nicely put. So the weekend's hurling, Shane, Limerick getting the better of Galway to get into the Division 1A final. Limerick 227, Galway 31 points. The other games then in 1A, Cork beat Offaly to make their way to the final as well, 626 to 20 points. And typical Kenny playing out a high scoring draw, 227 to 324 was the result there at Semple Stadium on Saturday. Why don't we start then with that Limerick-Galway match on Saturday night? I have to say, lads, watching Galway in the second half, hugely impressed with them again. We've been talking about them all the way through the league. But Shane, on Saturday, they really produced when they needed to in that second half, because the way Limerick played in that first half, it looked like they were just going to take over and storm to victory, but it was anything but in the end.
Yeah, it was yes, I think it was 7 points to 6 after about 20 minutes or so, and I just had down in my notes then, I looked up the scoreboard again, and it was 111 to 7 points. So Limerick were after getting 1-5 without reply. Obviously Cathal O'Neill's goal would be the standout score there, Cathal. But I just found it. Well, I was at the match, right, and there was a strange atmosphere in the second half in that I think Limerick went up by maybe 10 points at one stage, right, and there was a kind of a sense or a feeling of people, I'd say people were half wondering, will we slip away now because this is kind of done? And even doing the commentary, or this is just kind of seeing out the game kind of thing. But next thing, Limerick started to make a few changes, and the changes just kind of disrupted their structure, the way they were playing. And Galway just kept tipping away, and before we knew it, there was only 2 points in it. And sure, the gas thing is, if Kyle Hayes doesn't flick that ball off the line and it goes in, Galway are through to the league final and Limerick are out. So it was a small margins. For me, Limerick were the better team, and they kind of made hard work of it for a finish. But to credit to Galway, they stuck at it, they kept chipping away at the points. I just think it's funny with them, lads. I've seen them playing in the flesh in the last 2 games. They've scored 63 points and they've took 1 shot at the goals. The one shot being, Cathal Mannion's 21-yard free. So, as I said the other night, I don't know, are they happy to get to that kind of 30-point championship winning mark, just points? Because of the structure they're playing is a kind of a 1v1 inside, more or less 50 yards of the goal. They rotate the forwards around, Cathal. And they're very good at that now. It's well coached the way they rotate around who is the 1v1 inside. But yeah, they just found it interesting to score 63 points and only have 1 shot at the goal. I thought that was interesting. The other interesting thing for me was, in Damo, you'll probably remember this match a few years ago up in Croke Park. Galway were dominating the first half against Limerick.
Yeah.
We all remember it was kind of a visual of Paul Kinnerk scribble down something, and next thing we see, more or less all the Limerick forwards, maybe Bar Galan, they retreat back the field, and it just changes the shape of the game. And to gas Cathal, more or less the same thing happened the other night. If you look at the way Limerick changed their structure after Galway were well on top now, Everyone just retreated back. Hegarty was back. Cathal O'Neill was back, way back the field. Even Adam English changed position as well, and they just kind of left Gillane up there with Shane O'Brien to a lesser degree. But what they did was they just choked the life out of Galway by bringing numbers back, worked it through the lines, and as soon as they did that, they kind of took over the game. And where they lost the structure then was when they made a few substitutional changes. They kind of lost that structure. Galway got back on top then as well, and as I said, they just kept tipping away. Like, Nyland is serious at frees, nailed 7 of them the other night. Cathal Mullaney scores 4 points from play, just at his ease. Tom Monaghan works hard, Conor Whelan, Jason Rabbit 4 points from play as well. Real mature performance by him. But look, Limerick for me were the better team there, Cathal.
Yeah.
And I suppose a few was questioned, especially after the first league game. How the newer lads, are they going to step up eventually? And because they didn't, I suppose, against Waterford in the first game, but they've been brilliant since. And I suppose one guy in particular the other night, Cathal O'Neill, as I said, very lucky to work with him at college level. 1-6 from play, but he was just awesome there the other night. And I think, that's his best position, half forward line. I think that's where he wants to play himself. Yeah. I think that's where he gives Limerick something maybe more so than what he does in the half back line. So it was a very exciting finish, but it was a strange second half, call, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have to say, watching through it, Damien, in the first half, you're looking at Limerick and the tackling and the intensity that they brought to it. You're like, what team's going to be able to live with Limerick when they play like this?
Yeah, well, Shane is right. Like, the first game out, they were so poor by their own standards, and you actually wondered what the season held in store for them. But again, since then, they've been absolutely ravenous on the ball. I saw John Kiley and the Limerick set up at close quarters in Thurles there when they played Tipperary, and they were savage for every single ball. The message was play from the front, drive up, push up the field, press. They overturned the ball in their own half, but they're able to play out through the lines with lethal precision. They don't have to go inside to Gillane for scores because, for a long time now, they've been shooting long-range distance scores, Colin, and works really well. But if you want to go then into your inside forward lines, they're lethal there as well. So I think John Kiley will be very, very happy with the league performance. But I think Micheál Donoghue is the happiest league manager in hurling. Brian Down will be very, very happy that Kildare set up. He won't be happy with their performance against Wexford last weekend. But overall, I think Micheál Donoghue he's after doing some job in the space of 12 months. I watched Galway last year several times and they were listless. They were devoid of energy, they were devoid of application and work rate. And you look at even the full back line now, the likes of Trayers, they have a great captain there in Morrissey. All the way through that field, then there's young blood after being infiltrated. They had 11 different scorers against Limerick the other night, and I think Donoghue will be most happy with the comeback. And Shane is right, like the game was a bit weird and a bit peculiar, but to have that kind of resilience in the setup, and I think maybe why they're only playing one inside, I think they had to rebuild their confidence this year. Had to keep things very, very secure at the back and secure in the middle third because they were being completely overrun and played through last year. That's not the case now. And I mean, I don't know what their ceiling is this year, but they're off to a flyer. And it has to be good for them.
You'd imagine Leinster Championship, but Leinster title is a good target for them.
Shane, I don't know what you think, but they'll definitely be targeting an All-Ireland semi-final, I would imagine. I mean, on current form. Be, at the very least.
Their first game to have Kilkenny coming back after what happened the last day. A lot of people will say, and rightly so, that it wasn't maybe that Galway were brilliant, but that Kilkenny were very poor in that league game. And I said I was at that myself, but it wasn't like Galway looked so impressive that night as well, the way they were spraying the ball around. But I'd agree totally. I'd actually have Killian Trayers, but I put him back out to 6 personally. And he was at 3 the other night. I'd put him back out to 6. I'd put Pádraig Mannion back on the wing because he gives you that attacking kind of style that no more so than Kyle Hayes gives you for Limerick. I'd put Mannion back out at maybe at 5 and put Killian Trayers back at 6. Who they would put in at 3, I don't know, maybe put in the guy that won 4 All-Stars there, like Johnny Burke, like he, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously he's not fully right yet, but
Shane, do they remind you with the likes of Neary and Nyland and Rabbit and Killeen and I suppose one or two others?
Gavin Lee to come back as well.
Yeah, but with those young guys, Shane, do they nearly remind you of Tipperary's young guns last year? Like, and people say you can't do it in 1 year or whatever, but a lot of the Tipperary guys stepped up last season, and I just see.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I'd say they give a whole buzz to the thing, Damien, in terms of training and stuff like that. For the likes, you take Conor Whelan now, that he's the old stalwart of that full forward line at the moment with Jason Rabbit and Aaron Nyland, the two boys beside him. Like, but there's no fear like with them. Like even Jason Rabbit the other night, and Darrell Langham was on him sometimes. Barry Nash, Sean Finn scored 4 points from play, but gave a really mature performance in that he wasn't just taking a shot for the sake of it. He held onto the ball. He looked around to see if someone was up, and I think that's what Mahal Donoghue was after getting out of these lads, is that they have a composure now rather than hoping they were going to do it. Maybe they actually went and did it, and now they have a composure going into championship from playing intensity, real high intensity games like the other night, to say you can't just give the ball away because if you're turned over against top teams, you got to keep it, recycle it if you have to, but don't be taking stupid shots out by the sideline where it drops into Nicky Quaid's hand and they get a restart from a ball drop short rather than from a ball going dead. Like, so I think that there's a great maturity in a lot of their performances too, Damien, which is very hard to coach into someone, you know.
And in Cullen Killeen then, you know, like as well, you know, the performances he had for Loughrea, I expect him to have a massive impact at intercounty level at midfield in the coming seasons. Tiernan, his brother, is there centre forward as well, but Shane Morgan came off the bench there last week, and you know, he's a really, really good, solid defender as well after a good club campaign. So, no, they're very, very well positioned. Yeah, he's changed tack a little bit too. Fair play to him. I think he'd be very happy with the league.
Yeah. So Galway in a good spot. Where are Limerick at, do you think, Shane, after the regulation round of fixtures? They've got the league final to come, obviously.
Look, they've ticked a lot of the boxes, you know. Look, I'll be totally honest here now, and I think Limerick, I think they're going to be serious contenders this year, and they are still going to be the team to beat, right? Where they maybe find it more difficult than previous years might be that they don't seem to be getting the same big impact off the bench, right? And they got it maybe in one of the matches, but the other night I found it interesting that they didn't get that same kind of impact off the bench that they would have got maybe before, like with some of the lads coming on. So like they have a really strong team, but like I was going down through the league, it's probably a group of maybe 19 or 20 players, Damien. Would that be fair to say, that have played most of the league games for Limerick? Whereas other squads have probably used, I've heard maybe 32, 33, 35 players. Whereas Limerick have it's kind of been the same 19, maybe 20 guys. Like, so where the worry might be for Cathal in some way or form is if one or two lads are getting injured, do they get that same hit, that same impact as they would from guys that are in their top 20? Like, so
I think that's the only thing really. That's the because like Tom Morrissey, these guys have to come back in yet again. Tom came on against Tipperary and shot the lights out in a period of time, but injuries is the key. I think it's all they have to worry about really, because
let's say if all those guys stay fit, are they the favourites?
Come on, Shane. I'd still go Cork, like, I'll be honest.
Okay.
And I just see like their squad is stronger again this year, but obviously Tip won't be too far off. We never are, but sure, hopefully we'll be able to put up an old fight against some of the teams.
Keep the ball poked out, says you.
You'd be looking at those two league finals. I mean, right now, we all know better, but if you were to say who's coming out of Munster at the moment, you'd have two of the places gone already. But in reality, we know it doesn't work like that. But they do look formidable, and when Limerick have all personnel on their bench, I don't think there's a better squad. But Cork have this young hunger coming through. They're after bringing in the likes of Barry Walsh, a couple of new forwards. They have a real steeliness about them. Shane, you know what Ben O'Connor is like on the line, and they'll clash a few more times this year and have the popcorn ready there on the edge of the seats, because that rivalry could go anywhere. And then meanwhile, while they slug it out, other teams will take shape as well. We know hurling too well at this stage.
What league final look like, do you think, Shane?
I think they're both going for it 100%. I think it'll be a really good game. I loved Ben O'Connor's comments there again after saying we're making changes week on week because we're picking it on who's playing well in training, and if a lad is playing every week, it means he's going very well in training. Like, so you can send out a better message as a new manager coming in to say, if you train well, regardless if you've played or not, you're going to be on the team, and like that drives training, that drives competition for places, and as a result that makes the group better. Like, so you can say that, but actually saying it and doing it are two different things as a manager. But they've actually done it. Like, they've actually picked lads who maybe would be lesser known to the wider hurling world, e.g. Barry Walsh, And, he's obviously absolutely lifting it in training, and he's getting rewarded with his starting place. Now, he's a busy schedule coming up with the 20s starting during the week, no more so than several players and several inter-county panels have, so be interesting to see how they manage that load for him, I suppose, with playing a league final and then probably having to play a 20s game the following Wednesday. But yeah, I think it'll be a serious game. I'd be interested to see, do Cork go after Limerick like they've gone after Limerick before, with maybe they've kind of targeted maybe Diarmaid Burns on one side, Cathal, right? And they've kind of gone after it in terms of they'll nearly avoid the Kyle Hayes side of the field, and they'll go after the other side of the field in terms of pace and lads taking him on, and a Dara Fitzgibbon or a Shane Barrett. And it'd be interesting to see maybe the counteract to that from a Limerick point of view. How will they play Kyle Hayes at that side? Do they put him into six? Because I think Will O'Donoghue has been brilliant at six. Do they ask questions of Will O'Donoghue? Are you going to suck him out the field? So I'd be interested to see how, I suppose, Connacht in particular, because he's the coach and he's the guy who sets him up a lot of the time structurally. How they maybe counteract that, how Cork have gone after him in previous years in terms of their pace and taking him on and pulling and dragging him. Will they play a bit deeper? Things like that. So I think for those kind of tactical setups, that's where I'm kind of intrigued to see how the team's set up and where they're going to go after each other.
Can I ask you, Shane, as well about Cork defensively? Have they enough to repel the likes of Limerick and Tipperary maybe down the line compared to what they've produced defensively the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think I think Dara O'Leary will be very, very close to start full back for him.
I think he has to, Shane, to be honest.
I think he's very, very solid there. He brings that bit of steeliness to the thing as well. Maybe that they've been lacking a tree. That they probably lacked a tree last year in the full forward, in the full back line, to be honest, in the All Ireland final. Does Kieran Joyce play six? I think if Dara O'Leary's at three and he's at six, you have a good strong spine there, and you're building around him with the likes of Mark Coleman, Owen Downey. Does Robert Downey come in? Sean O'Donoghue's playing super stuff this year. So I think defensively, if Dara O'Leary's at three and Kieran Joyce is at six, I think you have a really solid spine there that you're not getting opened up as much. They can match you for pace. If they have a +1 back their call, it's impossible to defend against them. They're so comfortable on the ball. So you see when a team goes down to 14, I think it's so hard to play against them because they're so good at working it through the lines and they're so good at that ball to hand. So to answer your question, defensively, are they going to be set up differently this year? I think they have to be really, And I think with Dara O'Leary at 3 and Kieran Joyce at 6, I think you have a really solid spine there. Timmy O'Connell, or is it Timmy or Tommy? Sorry, Tommy. I think he brings that bit of spice to midfield as well. I love watching him play midfield. I love that he's really always borderline. Yeah. He's always borderline on a yellow card with everything he does, but he just brings that, and he helps out in Tim O'Mahony in terms of the work rate. We can see Tim is he just sprays that ball around so naturally. He's such a lovely striker of the ball. He's so accurate himself as well. So I think they're a little bit different this year. And obviously Ben has brought in that bit of, if it's a row, we'll all be in kind of thing. So it's they like the rows now. They've had a big row, or in most matches. So I think that's all these things are building up to a really good league final. But I don't know what your feelings are on the venue, lads. But for me, I think the Gaelic grounds is the wrong call here. I think this should be on in Croke Park, and I think the reasons being, you'd Limerick and you Tip and Cork in the round robin, 31,000 people at it. You'd Cork and Offaly the other night in a more or less a nothing game, 19,000. Clare and Dublin are playing as well. They'd 8,000 or nearly 8,000 at the league game alone down in Ennis, and I just think this is ideal for Croke Park. Limerick and Cork will sell this out on their own, lads, as you know well, twice over, right?
I think the capacity of the Gaelic grounds is 45,000 or thereabout.
Yeah, I don't know. Say if we're on about promoting hurling or whatever, and we want to give it a big showcase, right? It'll be on telly and everything and all those things. But all the football league finals are on the Croke Park, and I just think it's an ideal opportunity. We were chatting before, and lads, there's been 1 or 2 league finals in the last 20 years on the Croke Park. And I just think that this would be an ideal opportunity for that. Look what happened last year, lads, right? Look what happened last year with the Offaly and the Waterford supporters for the league final, when it was Tip and Cork down at Park Quay for the league final. There was, I was at it now myself. there was only a handful of people that were able to go from Waterford and Offaly. Now, the ticket distribution might be different this time, but I'm just saying for all those reasons, like, you're going to get a right Clare crowd, a right Dublin crowd who are going to want to go to this. And it's going to, like Cork, I said, Cork and Limerick would sell it out on their own. So I think this should be on Croke Park. People, the counter argument or the devil's advocate, Damien, I suppose, as you know well, would be you're maybe putting a cost on people to go to Croke Park and stuff like that. But I think people would gladly go and be able to go and have an opportunity to go. We're not asking that it has to be 83,000 people at it, but I think this should be on in Croke Park.
Bank holiday weekend as well.
Yeah, look, it would be. Look, obviously with fuel costs and stuff like that, people would maybe look at the journey up to Dublin and the cost of everything really. But Shane, from a promotional point of view, Shane is right. I'd actually go a step further. I'd nearly put the league final there, and I'd take the Leinster final out of Croke Park, because I think that could benefit from a more regional venue in terms of atmosphere. I think it's been lost in Croke Park for the last few years, but you look at the following that Cork have brought for the last few years, Carl, and then the Limerick public have really got behind that team over the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah, you'd probably look at 60,000, would you, Shane, in Croke Park?
Oh, geez, like handy. Like, lads, I tell you, we never had a job to try and get tickets for an All-Ireland hurling final last year, like we did, and as you'll know this, Damien, as well, like, just the Cork, the following that they have at the moment, like, and like if your child is like 8, 9, 10 years of age and they're really getting into it, geez, they'd love to go to this, but they've more of an opportunity to go to it if it's on in Croke Park. So I just think like the Gaelic Grounds it's a fine venue, like, you know, but they will sell this out. They'll sell the Gaelic Grounds out 1.5, 2 times for this easily, like. So I just think put it on in Croke Park, let everybody go that wants to go, and then you'll have a right atmosphere there. The Clare Dublin crowd, they'll all stay on to watch the Limerick Cork match. And there's no love lost between Limerick, Clare or Cork, so they'll all be, you know, I don't know who Clare will shout for, Limerick or Cork, you know what I mean? And the Dublin bandwagon, like, is going to get bigger and bigger, like, because they've great momentum now going into it, and I think they're going to turn a few heads in this Leinster Championship as well, lads. So that's, for me, lads, anyway, I think Croke Park, that's where it should be on.
Well, Shane, I think you've mentioned every team bar nearly Tipperary at this stage. You've been very cute about Tip, going along nicely and quietly. Draw Wicklow Kenny Saturday night, lots of scores. I was reading and listening to Liam Cahill after he felt that his team were silly on the ball, I think is the way that he put it. But will they be happy enough with how the league has worked out for them?
Yeah, sure, look.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, I'd say they will and they won't. They will be disappointed with some of the performances. I think Liam will be probably maybe disappointed with a few lads maybe that were getting opportunities that maybe didn't perform like he was hoping they were going to perform. But like, will they be happy enough? I think they will. They've never had their full team because of injuries or guys being laid off and things like that, Cahill. So that's where maybe, you know, obviously the likes of Limerick or Cork and Clare to a degree as well. They've nearly they've been able maybe to pick from more or less their strongest setup a few times, whereas Tip just haven't had that because of one thing or another. Lads been rested, lads been coming back from injury, and so they're all factors as well. I'd say they'll be happy enough. They'll have a couple of challenge games lined up, probably go away for a bit of a training camp, few in-house games as well. Obviously, there's going to have to be a cut made as well, Cahill, from league panels to championship panels. So that's going to be a tough decision for him over the next few days. The 20s are starting now this Wednesday night. We've a few senior lads involved with the 20s as well. You know, say Oisin O'Donoghue was named captain there at the weekend. So, you know, so that'll be a thing to juggle as well. All in all, will they be happy enough? I'd say they will. To be totally honest.
Yeah.
But I think we've had maybe 8 or 9 at most of maybe what I would term our best team. And I think the positive is, like, Cathal O'Reilly now is Cathal O'Reilly has come in this year, Cathal, and he's a genuine guy, you know, that can play a championship hurling. You know, he's going to be a serious yoke. Stephen Tobin played against Waterford last week. Stephen is going to ask questions now of someone else in the forward line, which is good. And you know, our 20s are not a bad group either, so you'll see a few of them maybe stepping up as well over the next year or two. So I don't think they'll be in a bad place. I just thought it was interesting that Kilkenny had averaged 117 per game in the league up to the other night, And I don't know, is it the tip jersey or was it the Galway performance? I think it's a mixture of both. They come out and they score 324 then against us, so they absolutely blow their average out of the water when they're playing tip. Like, so I think Derek Ling will be much happier from that regard.
Yeah.
And it's just gas, lads. As I said, TJ Reid is 39 this year, but he was brilliant the other night.
Yeah.
1-4 from play, 1-8 overall. But that lobbed goal on Shelley,
Class.
just class. You can't. Some lads have said you just can't coach some things, and I don't think you can coach into someone what TJ Reid does. But their efficiency was brilliant. Now, Carl, like they took 11 shots a goal before they had a wide, and they scored 110. So like Kilkenny were much better than what we've seen against Galway. But that was going to happen because they were so bad against Galway, and obviously there's a rivalry between ourselves and Kilkenny as well, or there's that local rivalry anyway. The other question I'd have for you, lads, I'd like to get your take on it. Like for me, if I'm picking a team of the league, right, and if I'm picking the goalkeeper,
Tallis.
it's Aidan Tallis.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Does he start
But sure,
championship?
My own information, and whether I could be wrong or not, my own information is, Murphy's injured and Tallis has got his go in the league, but he's been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And the whole puck out strategy has changed around him being in goals as well. And I thought the other night, how many blocks did he make? That save from Darren McCarthy, pure instinct. So he's the man in possession.
But if Murphy's available for the championship, surely he starts, doesn't he?
I mean, obviously, Murphy's
he probably does. He probably does, because of what he's done and like it has been one of the best goalies ever. Like, and then like would some Kilkenny people say, would you play him out the field? Like because he's so good out the field. He plays all his club hurling out the field.
Yeah.
And he won man of the matches playing Fitzgibbon games.
What would Ben O'Connor do with Cork?
Yeah,
in terms of the goalkeeper.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he plays the man in form.
That's what he said. Yeah,
he plays the man in form. So I don't know.
It's
a big decision. It's a big decision to be made there. But I've been not only impressed with him whenever I've seen him. Again, they have changed things around him being in there as well. Timmy Hoolan's working closely with him, former Limerick goalkeeper. They've had a few outside coaches in there as well. Niall Corkin is there. What I admired about Kilkenny the other night overall, though, they didn't, because of all the flaking that they got for playing this hybrid game, they didn't just go back and belt it in long again. They actually held a bit of composure. I thought they played it through the lines nicely. I thought their handling was better than Tips the other night, if I'm being honest with you, Cathal.
That's what Liam Cahill said as well. Is that down to maybe Tip chasing their tail a little bit on the physical side because they came back maybe a small bit later?
No, my look at this anyway, and Shane will know this as well as anybody, but since Tipperary won the cup last year, and the under-20s as well, those lads have been in such demand, all the way through. I don't think anybody's ever represented the county as well as this current bunch of lads, but the cup has been absolutely everywhere. Schools, hospitals, old folks' homes, it's been absolutely everywhere. And up to a long point in the year, players were available to bring that around. They were also back in club action. In our own case in Killarone, 6 days after the All-Ireland final, you had county campaigns, then under-20 campaigns after that. A fair scattering of lads into the Fitzgibbon Cup then straight away. A lot of injuries there as well, as Shane has alluded to, like the likes of Ronan Maher, had to take a long period out. And then you're coming back and you're not as early in the schedule as you were the year before. You're doing your block of training at different times. But I must say, if you trust anybody, you trust Mikey Beavens and Liam Cahill to get it right. They got out of Munster in third place last year, and those few weeks not being in the Munster final, I believe, allowed them to tweak up to win the All-Ireland. So, as Shane alluded to there now, for Tipperary's point of view, the next few weeks will be crucial. They'll either get the body of work done, they'll get back to that pinch of where they were at, or they won't.
Yeah, it's probably about sharpness now.
They'll people nearly be feeling sorry for us now, Damien.
Yeah, you've played this one well,
extremely unlikely.
I just think, like, say, again, I just kind of jotted down a rough team of the year. I don't want to give everyone agree with it, but I, like, from a Tip point of view, I'd have Jake Morris in it. But there wouldn't be anyone else from Tip in it. So, like, that maybe sums up maybe where we are in terms of consistency of performances, Cathal. There'd probably be 4, maybe 5 of the Galway lads in it, right? So that's probably where we're at in terms of a whole team or a whole group. We've had some good individual performances. Jake has been absolutely brilliant, and like what a performance he gave Damo Saturday night. And his granddad Jimmy was, his funeral was on yesterday, been buried today. And I think it was very touching that that he scored that goal. I suppose with his granddad Jimmy being such a stalwart to the GAA. but Jake has been our best player. But there's very few of the rest of them you could say have been consistently brilliant. Like against Limerick, Cathal, our best player was Noel McGrath.
Yeah.
And he was the oldest fella on the field. So I think that's just where we're at. I think we'll be fine. I think they'll have a great few weeks now. The 20s lads will be getting lots of good games in, so there'll be really good internal games. I'm sure, as I said, challenge games lined up. So I think we'll be fine when we get everybody back. Would we be happy to get out of Munster right now? To be totally honest with you, everybody in Tip would be absolutely delighted if we just got out of Munster. Because it's just the nature of it and the competition that's there. So
okay.
Yeah, we won't play the Portmouth anymore now.
Do you want to give us your team in the league there, Shane, if you've got it?
Yeah, okay, I can. Maybe you might agree. So I'd have Aidan Tallis in goals.
So 1 lad from Tipperary and 4 lads from Ballinhinch.
I just about made it there. I suppose a few positional changes. Like I'd have Mark Fitzgerald in it. Have him in the backs, full back line. Darragh O'Leary, Sean O'Donoghue, top Pádraig Manahan, Will O'Donoghue, Kyle Hayes, Adam English. I think Cathal Mullaney, just because of his performances again, has been brilliant. Cathal O'Neill, Aidan O'Connor, Jake Morris, Shane O'Brien, Brian Hayes. I think has been fairly consistent as well, and I think Aaron Nyland has been brilliant.
It's a lot of Limerick lads.
Yeah, there could be a couple more Cork lads in there, but it's great to be chatting about this. You know, this is what gets debate. And Mark Fitzgerald is, to me, most impressive hurler in Waterford for the last year and a half. And you know, I know him mostly as a halfback, but you
they
know,
put him in at full back, didn't they?
That's what you do.
Yeah. Okay. Just a word on 1B, lads, before we finish up as well. Dublin making their way through to the final after their win over Carlow at the weekend. So Clare and Dublin, as we mentioned, into the league final, and Down and Carlow relegated. Mind you, Down had a great win last puck of the game against Antrim.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I mean, I look at the work Ronan Sheehan has done from under 14 level all the way up to Celtic Challenge, all the way up to Down Seniors. They've had ups and downs, you know, to get to this level of the league. They hadn't been there in quite some time, but Ronan always sticks with it. A cohort of players that have been there for a long time, and you'd wonder when you lose a few, will the things slide away? But that was an unbelievable result against Antrim. You know, bear in mind they've been beaten by Kildare and the like this year, and they always traditionally would have beaten those players or those teams. So a good result. Clare are coming in completely under the radar. The only question is now 1B versus top flight. Will they find that pitch? I'd imagine they will. It's a huge year for them, and they're more experienced players. Dublin have got their conditioning over the last 2 years up to elite levels. All that ever let them down was their probably decision making under pressure, and their natural hurling up front. They proved it against Limerick. They can live with the best. Huge year for them this year. Wexford dispatched of Kildare fairly easily. I thought Keith Roster was under immense pressure at the turn of the year. He's done remarkably well, in my opinion. Leinster will be more competitive now than, you know, everybody's going to be talking about Munster, but Leinster's wide open as well, Carl.
Yeah, Shane?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think what Kildare have done, you know, the other day, obviously it wasn't good for them, but like, let's be honest, like they're going to have to replay that fixture in a few weeks' time. So it's not into the world stuff that they didn't get that win the other day. I think they had the box ticked before the game was played, as in regards retaining their status. I think it's been a brilliant league for Kildare in that regard. I'm sure they've learned an amount, and I agree with Damo there totally. I think because of Kildare, you know, turning a few heads, and we see what Dublin are doing. I fancy Dublin maybe to maybe give this league a rattle, actually, and maybe I actually fancy them to win the game, because I think they would have learned a lot even from playing Clare earlier in Ennis. I thought they should have won that game as well. And I think there will be a bit of a kicking off lead. There just has to be, but they just need all the bodies back. And when they're missing the few, they just don't have the same quality to replace the lads who are missing. So they'll get everybody back as well, and there'll be a couple of big performances in them as well. So with all those things intact, and with Kilkenny, we see the bounce they got off them, where Galway are at. I think, as Damo said, I think you do have a much better Leinster Championship because of all those things. Like, but yeah, sure. Look, it'll still be all about Munster lads.
It's a great time of the year, though. You know, I mean, we look at, there's daffodils out there. The sun is out. The ground is hard, and you know, we all know what's coming. You can't quite predict who's going to get out of Munster to the levels you can with Leinster, but we're in a good place now, Cathal. And I think hurling's in a good spot as well.
Yeah, let's look forward to it. Not too long to go now to the championship in mid-April. Just to mention as well the other divisions this weekend: Kerry and Laois promoted from Division 2 and Division 3, Wicklow and Donegal the top two, and Sligo and Longford into the final in Division 4 as well. So that's how things are shaping up for the league finals. Just before we go, a reminder, you can get in touch with the podcast on sportpodcast@rte.ie on email, and you can like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. My thanks to Damian here in studio and Shane as well, and we'll talk to you again on the podcast on Thursday.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
RTÉ